Hello everybody and welcome to another official Tribal Wars video tutorial. I'm Marshy from the international community, and in this video I'm going to be covering a few different nobling strategies as well as how to determine which villages are worth taking. Keep into consideration the information in this video is in regards to you taking your first few villages. As you reach the noble stage, you're either going to make a single noble, two nobles, or a train, which is 4 nobles all being sent together but in separate attacks. So the real question is, which is the best? Well, it all depends on your current situation. If you don't feel extremely confident in the size of your army or have a defensive army, you may want to go for the single noble. The reason I say that is because you wouldn't have a strong enough army to escort the train without risking losses, and it may be better in this case to take a vacant village nearby. If you find yourself in a situation where there's a player relatively close in size and are fairly close by, you may want to consider sending 2 nobles. The only benefit to this opposed to a train is you may be able to noble the other player's village a few days before, and it's really difficult to counter the noble attack. Maybe you caught this player off guard and they haven't focused on their army yet. Maybe the village is being given to you by that player, or possibly the village was recently cleared. If you're impatient like me and just really excited to get that next village but don't want to wait the extra time to build a full train, this may be a good option for you. If you find that you're farming really well and have good resource production, a train is typically your best bet. If you're farming well, that typically means your army is a decent size, which is something I recommend before making your train. You need to make sure your army is large enough to escort your nobles as well as do a successful clearing. There's a lot of benefits to having a train opposed to having a single noble. You can take a player out in a very short amount of time. Oftentimes you can take a village in one attack and you only need to rebuild 1 noble to be able to send the train back out. The biggest difference in the early stages of the game is that you can take the villages further away. This can be the benefit when farming because you can reach new villages to farm, and this can open a lot of doors for taking larger villages with less defense. And being that you're actually spread a little ways out, it does give you more nobling options as well. Now let's take a look at a scenario to see the difference in how long it would take you to noble a single target. So if you have a noble, you can easily just click a village that you want to see how long it's going to take for your noble to get there. Click the village information, send troops, and enter in your noble. Since I do not have any nobles, I'm going to show you an alternative way to do it if you don't have that troop and you do not have a premium account. So we're going to go into the actual Tribal Wars homepage, and then you can go into Tribal Wars stats. In here you select the world that you're on, and then select the attack planner. This is a great tool for planning attacks, but for the sake of this video, we're just trying to figure out how far away this village is. So we're going to go back into our map, and we are going to take a look at this village right here, since I think this will be a good one to use. I'm just going to copy the coordinates and go back into the Tribal Wars Stats Attack Planner. We're going to enter my name as the attacking player. And we are going to select the village right here. And then also the slowest unit, which will be the noblemen, since they are the slowest of all the units. After we've selected the nobleman, we just select next. And then as you can see, it takes 1 hour 55 minutes in this world to travel to that village. Keep in mind that world speeds are different, so if you have a village that's the exact same distance away, the time may differ. So if we were sending 1 nobleman, we would have to send it. It would take 2 hours to get there, 2 hours to get back, and in that time, the player is regaining their loyalty. If you need to know how that works, you can go back down into the help menu. Then you select battles. And right on the table of contents here, there is conquering villages. And this explains how the actual conquering process works, the loyalty, and the loyalty will regain differently depending on the world. So if we had 2 noblemen in these attacks and we were attacking this player, it would take us roughly 2, possibly 3 attacks. So it would take us 2 hours to get there, 2 hours to get back, 2 hours more to get there, which would be a total of 6 hours. And then if that noble attack didn't take the village, then it would take 2 and then 4 more hours. So it could take a total of 10 hours. Whereas if we had a noble train, it would take us roughly 2 hours to get the noble train there. And if we were unlucky, then it would take 4 more hours, since we have to add the 2 hours for the troops to get back and the 2 hours for the troops to go back to the village. So the difference really is big. And the further away that you go, the bigger that difference is going to be. If you are right next door, this village is roughly 35 minutes away. So if you have 1 nobleman, it's a little bit more practical to be able to take that village before that player gets more support in. And even if the player may not get support in, you are reducing your risk of that player getting supported, since you technically aren't likely going to know if they are going to be able to get support. So you really want to put yourself into the best situation possible. Now that you know how many nobles you're going to make for your playstyle, now which villages are worth taking? I like to tell people that they're going to want to make a second village that's at least half their current size. Nobles are expensive, and you really want to make sure those first few villages count. If you aren't able to do so, just go for the biggest villages that you can manage to take. It's really hard in this situation since my village is so small, but if I started around the same time as these players and was similar in size, I would really want to be looking at taking them, since they are my competition and I really want to try and beat those other players. However, if I'm not able to get those players, maybe they're in my tribe or possibly I'm working alongside of them, I'm going to start looking at some of these other villages that are around 600, 700 points in size. And I can look a little bit further too to find some other options. Now that you've selected a target and noble strategy, you're going to need to scout the target. At this point, you need to be fairly confident in your troops and have the nobles ready, because you need to strike quick when you do scout them. Also, take into consideration the tribe that they're in and how many members are within supporting distance of them. After getting your report, you're going to want to run a simulation, which is located right inside of the rally point. To see what your potential losses are. I like to put the luck at -15 right on the bottom down here. And then also occasionally, depending on the world, I'll add some different flag boosters that will put me at a disadvantage, because I want to figure out the worst case scenario to see that even if I get a -15 luck and they have really good flag boosters and a high wall, that I'm still coming out on top and winning that fight. If you can clear the village with around 1/4 losses, I would say you could probably just send a noble in the first attack, but just know that they may receive some support. If this isn't the case, then you'll want to send all the troops to clear the village before sending any nobles in the second wave of attacks. The goal is to take the largest villages possible with the smallest amount of losses. If you find yourself in a situation where you may have a lot of threats nearby, it may be better to noble close to your main village to allow for quicker support in the event you do get attacked. Be sure to keep an eye on players who recently got large increases in opponents defeated offensively, because it means they have an offensive army and are more vulnerable to attacks. You can find out a player's opponents defeated by clicking on their village, going into their village file, selecting their name, and then view player history. And in here, ODA stands for opponents defeated attacking, and ODD stands for opponents defeated defending. And if you are lucky enough, you may be able to take a player that is being attacked, and then also take the attacking player, since they may be weakened from attacking the initial player that you took. I hope this video has helped you learn the different options you have when nobling villages and taught you how to weigh risks when picking targets. Good luck nobling, and thanks for watching.